Good morning. Wow, yeah, it is bigger when you stand up here. Hi everyone, there's a lot of you out there. How are you all doing? My name is Phil Nash, thank you Sergey. I am a developer evangelist for a company called Twilio. If you don't know who Twilio are, we are kind of a cloud communications platform that allows you to send or receive text messages or make or receive phone calls using the tools, the languages, the frameworks that you already know. And actually we're coming up to a point where we're releasing a WebRTC solution which will allow making video and audio calls between browsers easy for front-end developers as well. No thinking about awkward back-end bits of code. But talk to me about that later, because I'm here to talk to you about push notifications. So I want to start with a little warning. This session is going to include some live coding. Now, it's nice to follow on from a couple of talks from Douglas and from Gil, where we were talking about ideas and how the web is growing and where it's going to be. But I'm going to write some code. I hope that's okay with you guys. Yeah. Which means it could all go wrong, of course. There's going to be some new JavaScript as well. Like this code is going to be written for my laptop right here, so there might be some ES6 or ES2015 or I don't really know. There's some new JavaScript stuff. I hope that's okay as well. I'll try and explain the bits that I use as I get there. But hopefully you'll agree that they're some of my kind of favorite features, and none of them are the class keyword, so I hope that's okay. There might be some opinions. This is a stage and I have a microphone, so that seems fairly reasonable, right? And there's going to be some audience participation. In order to make this code work, I'm going to need a little help from you out there, so just have your phones or your laptops or whatever ready. If you're on Twitter, you might find they come in useful. I'm just going to put mine down over here. There are any cat gifs. Some people like cat gifs, and I have given this talk a couple of times before, and people are like, where are the gifs? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, if you want to have some funny pictures in there, like, send them in. This will be part of the audience participation. If that's okay, if I see something good come up, maybe we'll see it on screen. So the web is getting pushy. What do I mean by that? I'm going to frame it in this way. Now I know there's always a lot of talk about the ideas of web versus native, but the web, rightfully trails behind native applications and native SDKs. They're a great practice ground to see if features ever need to exist. And once they are decided to be a generally good thing, the web can then standardize and make that available for all of us. And the web is for all of us, as many people much smarter than me have said. So within the web, within the standards, we now have things like geolocation in our browsers. We have accelerometer access, for example. We have peer-to-peer video chat directly in a browser without any plugins or anything like that, and I think that's amazing. We even have screaming fast DOM performance, right? I don't know, maybe if you use React Canvas or something. I tell you what, let's go to the bar later, have a couple of drinks, and then I can do another half-hour rant on why I think things like React Canvas are the worst thing in the world. Somebody agrees, that's good. Now see you at the bar. So we don't have that, but what we haven't had up until very recently is push notifications. And I know Gil mentioned actually HTTP2 and its kind of server push things, but this is not that. That's very cool, but this is not that. I'm talking about the very useful notifications, such that you might get from the Twitter application, telling you that some people that you may have accidentally followed that one time are now talking about Grey's Anatomy. Or some other equally fascinating subject that you desperately needed to know about and make a buzz go off in your pocket. Now, as I said, I work for Twilio, and so for the most part, I would probably have been mentioning that maybe we should send SMS to our users then, and we have some blanked out ones on the screen because presumably they were private, or certainly more private than Grey's Anatomy. But SMS obviously does have its issues as well. It does not live within the application as such. It is a separate push kind of activity. So when we want to to really pick up with native and get those icons and things that you can see next to the notifications, swipe that and open the application, that kind of thing, we need it to be built into the platform. So notifications have existed sort of in the web for a little while. And this is where I want everyone to kind of start and join in, right? Because I'm actually going to browser here. This is Chrome. And over here is a page which will show me tweets using the hashtag YGLF_push, in bigger YGLF_push. If you send a tweet to that, I'm going to do so myself right now, we'll start to see them appear on screen. My phone doesn't recognize my thumbprint this morning, fantastic. There we go, so if I go back here, they'll start to, no, hold on. And this bit's fun as well, because actually the Twitter API can be a little bit slow. The internet is working, I can promise you that. But the API is slow. I can see that things are coming in, right? But the Twitter API is really slow. I'm just going to walk over here and admire the set for a while, because this is a beautiful theatre, right? One more refresh, and we're going to see some tweets, right? Thank you, Twitter, hooray. In fact, there's mine at the top, brilliant. So that's great, but I had to refresh, right? This is the days of a meta refresh as some kind of updating mechanism. That's terrible, right? What we could do better than that. We can do better than that. So let's write some code. Let's dive right in. So right there, I am running a Node.js server, and it has on it an event source, a server-sent events endpoint. So I'm going to create a new one of those. It's a new one, isn't it? And it's at stream. Cool. And I also have a list. You saw the list there. So I'm going to get that list. I have jQuery on this page because I'm lazy. And because you don't want to see me type out a whole bunch of document.add element and all that kind of stuff. Probably a good thing. And basically, we can, you have to excuse, of course, my vars. There are some ES6, ES whatever things in here, but I haven't quite got up to scratch with vars, const, lets, whatever those things. We're going to use var for now. But all of this, notably, is running in the browser. So this is no transpilation. This is all live in the current version of Chrome I'm using right here. So we have that function. Let's get in there. So if we get an event from our stream, we can parse that. Data equals, ooh, it's a message, we'll call it a message. JSON parse built into the browser, very nice. Event.data. And that's our message that we're sending up with our username and our password. And with that, we can just create an element, a list of elements which is going to go into our thing. And this is one of my first bits of new JavaScript stuff coming in. This is a template string using backticks, which means we can do lovely stuff like, oops, once I type things. You all wanted to see me type HTML today, right? In my JavaScript, even better. But what this means, sorry, is that we can do a message from there, and that is going to get interpolated into this string, which is nice. That's going off the edge of the screen. There we go, that's better. And then we can do another P, another strong. We can go with this a bit quicker. Body. And another interpolation, which is nice. The message.body, and P and I. And lo and behold, we have ourselves a nice jQuery element which we can then take our list and prepend it to. That's a good first start there, I reckon. So if anybody's still, if we reload that page and anybody's still sending in any tweets, we see some nice little updates there where we get a yellow flash. Lovely, we got that from, I don't know, Rails back in the day or something, like feeding away yellow flash. But we can probably do better than that, so let's have a think about it. Because the web actually has had the idea of real notifications for a little while, something that can trigger an actual pseudo operating system level notification. And we have support for this, and we've had support for this in browsers for, as I say, quite a while. Chrome has supported this since version 22. as has Firefox, not that that version was anywhere near the same time. But I do like big numbers in browser versions these days. Opera has supported this since 25. Safari supports this in version 6 on OS 10.8 and above. I'll tell you why, tell you more about that later. And Internet Explorer has this under consideration. Or Edge, I should call it Edge. It's fine. They are doing a lot of good work up there, but it's under consideration. And actually, I do not think under consideration is a bad thing to say, and I will tell you more about that as well later. So let's quickly add a bit of that in as well. We have a demo. Right, back to the code here. So notifications come with a nice permission scheme, which is nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to uncomment a button there in my view, and then I'm going to get that button, the easy jQuery way. And when we click that button, we're going to ask permission to send the user notifications, which is a nice thing to do. So to do that, we just call notification.request permission. That'll be easy. Now we can pass that callback function, which will take the result of the notification, which is not a Boolean yes or no. Sadly, it's a trinary yes, no, or maybe. And the idea is of default, as in that's what you know so far, granted or denied. And then over here, what we can do with that, when notifications start to come in, is if we have the permission, if the permission with 3 equals is granted, then we can create a notification. And this is a quite simple API actually, because you give it a title, which, using my template tags again, is just message from. And then we give it an object of other things, which could include icons or imagery or things like that. But for right now, I'm just going to set the body, which is going to be message. And that is pretty much it. So if I go back to our browser again, so over here, a lot of things coming in. I'm just going to make sure I haven't got permissions. So if I hit the get notifications, we have a permissions dialog. Wonderful. We can block all the horrible notifications that you never wanted to hear about. But if we allow that and something comes through, then we'll start to see notifications appear in the top left of our screen. Fantastic. Now, because I'm alone, I'm just going to deny those again because it gets really busy on screen otherwise. I have to refresh that. But right, we can have a real notification. This thing is real. Don't poop on slides. Okay, what? Yes, you are a notification. You guys are great. Thank you for sending me through. I guess that's some emoji somewhere down there. I don't know. I wasn't watching, sorry. Great, so we'll go back to here, because that was pretty cool, but it has a problem. It has a problem that if you close that browser window, I no longer get to hear the interesting comments and things that are going on between the rest of you whilst I stand up here and talk about it. So what we want is the way for the browser to notify us when we've left the website, we've left it all behind. And that really is where push notifications come in. And that really is the new stuff. And that's because it's based on the service worker. Now, you might have heard of the service worker before because it's been brought in to deal with caching, more sensible front-side caching. And you might have heard this guy, Jake Archibald, going on about the last API, the last way we could do caching in the front end in HTML, calling it a douchebag. And whilst swearing at parts of, sort of swearing at bits of open standards is nice. What it actually eventually meant was that we worked on something that was bigger and more encompassing and more powerful and better for all of us. I'm not going to talk necessarily about the caching side of things, but we are going to go in and look at service workers, because they're not just for this offline processing. It's not just for caching things offline, it's not just for recovering in the case of going from on to offline. what the service worker is a piece of JavaScript that runs in the browser, in the background, when your website is not necessarily live. And that's why you can use it for these push notifications. So service worker is fairly new, and support is much less than even our old notification. So service worker itself has been live in Chrome since version 14. I think it's behind a flag in Firefox, and has been in Opera since version 24. Safari, we don't have it. I don't know if we're going to get it. I don't know. WWDC starts today, I think. Maybe we'll hear something from the magic black box of Apple goodies. Who knows? And this is why I think under consideration is much better. Because at least we know they're thinking about it. We haven't a clue what's going on in Cupertino. Until, as I said, sometime today in San Francisco, I don't know. So under consideration, not such a bad thing. And you know, if you want to check out all of these kind of support levels for Edge and for other browsers, then status.modern.ie is a fantastic site for that right now, as they kind of document the states of all the browsers going through all the various standards and processing and things like that. The push notifications were not supported in that first, in the Chrome 40 version. They came along in 42. Again, I think it's behind a flag in Firefox. And in this case, I actually have no idea what's going on with Opera. I can't find anything about it. And I've tried. Safari does not have a question mark this time, because Safari actually supports offline, sorry, not on the website, push notifications into Message Center, Notification Center on iOS 10.8 and above. However, it is non-standard and makes you go through all the awkward setup of certificates and everything else that's awkward about, like, making an app in the App Store, but for your website. And so it's entirely non-standard and not a good thing. I mean, if you desperately need this to be a thing in your Safari on the desktop, then you can make it so, but let's make it go away and use the standards thing. Internet Explorer, of course, under consideration. We don't have the service worker yet, so they can't possibly have push notifications, but they are thinking about it. So that's the support. There's great places to look up at it. Like I said, status.modern.ie is brilliant to check on these things, and if you're interested in particularly service worker itself, then Jake Archibald's Is Service Worker Ready is very good to show the various bits of browsers that need to be pulled together that allow service workers to really shine. And that includes things like promises, which we're going to see in a minute. So let's write our service worker. This is hopefully the moment we've really been waiting for. So let's jump back in here. I'm just going to turn off these notifications so that we know I'm not cheating. So our service worker, we're going to set up. This is on the navigator. I'm not going to do any checking for whether things exist because it's this browser. When I say works on my machine, that's all I need it to do right now. So we service worker and we register it. And now it actually returns this promise. As I said, new ES6 stuff and things like that. And so with that promise, when I click on the button, which is to get those notifications to happen, I'm going to take that promise and I'm going to then hit hooray. And what I get from that is a registration. And with that registration, I'm going to ask it. So what I didn't mention earlier was that we're all actually pair programming right now, so any typos are your fault as well as mine. But you're welcome to shout out and correct me. So we're actually going to get the registration, and the registration has a push manager, and you can subscribe to it. And that is a promise. So we can avoid our callback hell by returning the promise and doing then on top of that. And with that subscribe, we return a subscription in that response. And with this, I'm just gonna, so we get an ID with this subscription, which is the ID to a cloud service that will be able to push the messages down to our browser. So what I'm going to do is save that to my server, which is actually just right here. This is just the server that's running behind there. Some simple stuff. It's an Express application. It has a Twitter client. This is the search that we do on the homepage. This is the stream, and we pop events to it from a streaming client. None of this is that important. But right here I've got a get to a sub endpoint, which takes the registration ID, which is a lovely global variable for the sake of ease in this demonstration. And we're going to get sub ID out of that query. So I'm going to fetch to sub with a sub ID of template string subscription subscription ID. Cool. Fetch returns a promise, as it is another fancy new thing in JavaScript, and is a much nicer AJAX request, effectively. But this very basic one will just simply send off a GET request with that subscription ID in it. Cool, so once we have that, we actually have all the things in the front end that we need to do in order to make these service workers happen. Whoa, no we don't. I actually need to tell the service worker where to register, where the JavaScript actually lives. That's important too. So I can tell you that my service worker JavaScript file is at serviceworker.js, and here it is. It doesn't do anything right now. So we'll build this one as well. And with the service worker, we're going to listen to some events. Self, in this case, is the service worker itself. So you can add a listener to the worker, and when we receive a push with an event, we can do something with it. So, if I can go back to here, what I'm going to be doing is, when we get a tweet come through, and this is what happens here, this is the streaming Twitter API, Twitter streaming API, tracking that hashtag we're using, and when we get that data, we put it into a nice little block, and we emit it as a message, which is where it gets sent up to the event emitter, sorry, the event stream, the service sent events. But we also have this bit here, so when I have that global registration ID set, I can make up a new GCM message. Now GCM is the Google Cloud messaging platform. It's the only way we can make this happen right now, but apparently Google and Mozilla are working together to form to support a standard called Web Push. So in the future we won't have to use proprietary mechanisms for this, but this one is battle tested because it is also the one that's behind the Android push notifications as well, so it's fairly safe. And so there are existing libraries, and this is a Node.js one that I'm using in order to send this message. Now what we see here is I'm adding the data to that message and sending it via the cloud. We send it off. But at this level of service worker and push notification implementation, you can't get that data back. That is also going away, but for right now we have to go and get it again. So what I'm going to do is just do a fetch to latest. Fetch does live, again, also in service workers. It's very safe to use here, because if it doesn't support a service worker, it doesn't support fetch. We're going to support fetch, we're going to get fetch, and we're going to fetch the latest, which is the latest tweet from the API. And that's what we're going to display in our notification. So with that, that's going to come back as data. And so we get this nice new data.json method, which we can use to turn that into JSON, but it's a promise. So we can take the data from that, and we get the message as a nice JavaScript object now. So we don't do parse anymore, we can just get the JSON data as a promise. We get that message, and I've forgotten one other thing. This is fun. So, the thing about push notifications is that there's a lot of potential security issues and things like that with service workers running. Service workers themselves can only run on sites that are on HTTPS or localhost, which is where we are right now. But there's also the case that right now in push notifications, you have to send a notification. If you say you're going to take a notification and you respond to this push event, you actually have to make a notification, or the browser will do one for you. So we're just going to wrap everything here in event.waitUntil, which takes a promise, and when that promise resolves, we'll then tell the service worker we're all done. If you don't send that notification sometime within that wait until, then the browser will make that notification happen for you somehow. So, we've got our event. Event data. Yes. So, with the message, we are now going to return our actual notification, which is great. So, we actually go back to our registration that we created on the front end, and then we call the show notification method on it, which is effectively the same as the new notification object in the front end, except this this one will also notify the browser that we've sent that notification as well. So from message from, and the same thing again. It could also be the case that the actual notification object and that class or whatever, that function, will be going away in the future, though I can't speak necessarily to that right now. But this works very much the same and will live on. So, this is the body. So we're going to show that notification. Lovely. We're going to add one other thing, which is something to do when we click the notification. So we're listening to the notification click event. Which makes sense. And that allows us to do stuff once the, you know, when we're not yet on our web page, not yet on our actual page, but still have the notification. And once again, it's best, it seems, to wrap these in event but wait until, just to make sure things happen and the service worker doesn't close itself down whilst you're trying to do something. And in this case, we're just going to do a very simple open window back to our original. Oops, and that is a return of a promise, so not a semicolon there, which is a great way to break this code.
You didn't return a promise the first wait until.
Where were we? No, I think we're all right there. I think we're mainly
the first one.
It's not a function.
You didn't
Let's see how that works. Let's see how that works. So we're still getting lots of tweets, thank you. People still going on about poop. I don't know what's going on here. So if I hit that, it's going to ask me for permission again. There is literally always one person that tries to script inject one of these. It's hilarious that we're trying to drop tables. This is a Node application with Mongo behind it or something. Which of course drops things anyway. So if I do that, I'm going to ask for permission again. Once I get that permission, it's going to send it back. It's going to, no, okay, maybe something has gone wrong, maybe you're right. This is where we get to find out, that all seems right. Alright, wait, so there at the bottom of the screen you can see our big subscription ID. And there we're starting to send off push notifications. So I'm just going to close that now, and with any luck, something will just come through eventually. In the meantime, what I can show you is the service worker internals, which shows you that this is my, I have a bunch of unregistered workers, which is lovely. I'm just going to kill all of those. Yeah, there we go. And then I'm going to reload that page. I'm going to get my subscription ID, which is shown down there, and then I'm going to close that. So we have our active service worker running there. This is a little box where you can actually log things to it. If you console.log from the service worker, it will appear in that box. And you can actually inspect the service worker at this point and see that apparently there are still absolutely no problems with it. But I'm assuming you're still sending me messages. No, we're not. We're actually not sending any messages. Somebody send a tweet, quick. Because I've only got like a minute left. If this doesn't work. There we go, there's one going through. So we have a message. We did not have the website open. So that is delighted that happened. So with 17 lines on the service worker there, and just a few extra lines on the front end, I can turn these off again. So. See, now I close the site, and of course I can't stop them going through, so I'm just going to close the entire application, and that will stop them. Thank you. So yeah, with just a few lines of code on both front and the back end, and obviously if you were putting this into production, there'd be some more checks around it. We actually have a very good we have a very good way of notifying people when they are off of our websites. And that's it. So I wanted to finish with a 20-second warning, because that's all apparently I have. That with great power does come great responsibility, and if we go back to that original tweet, nobody wants to hear about this Twitter, if you're listening, anybody from Twitter, nobody. Everyone's unchecked the options to hear whether somebody's talking about something or not. And if they've not, they've turned off all of the notifications from that application. And you've seen how easy it is to turn off notifications within a browser as well. It's that simple little menu at the top where you just disallow everything. And so, you know, make sure you treat your users with respect if you decide to add something like this, and make sure that they can turn things off, they can be granular about the things that they care about, hear notifications about the things they want to hear about. But, you know, I think it's an exciting time for the web. Let's go on and let's push this forwards and let's make our applications wonderful. Thank you very much.